What if I told you that for most of human history, nobody owned an alarm clock, and yet somehow people still woke up on time every single day? No buzzing, no phone notifications, no snooze button, just humans, darkness, and the desperate need to not be late. Here's what's even stranger. Some people hired strangers to shoot peas at their bedroom windows. Others drank enormous amounts of water before bed on purpose, hoping their bladder would do the job. And in medieval monasteries, one unlucky monk was assigned to stay awake all night just to wake everyone else up. But here's the question nobody asks. Were they actually sleeping better than we are right now? Because buried inside these strange, forgotten rituals is a secret about human sleep that modern science is only beginning to rediscover. And once you hear it, you might never look at your alarm clock the same way again. To understand how people woke up before alarm clocks, you first need to forget everything you think you know about sleep. We live in a world where waking up means a jarring sound ripping you out of unconsciousness at a precise pre-programmed minute. 7:15 a.m. every day, non-negotiable. And we treat this as completely normal, even necessary. But step back just 200 years, and that entire concept simply did not exist. We're talking about a world stretching from ancient Rome to medieval Europe, from the busy canal cities of China to the farming villages of England, a world where the relationship between humans and sleep was fundamentally, profoundly different. In this world, time itself was flexible. There were no standardized time zones until the 1800s. Most ordinary people measured their day by sunrise, sunset, and church bells, not by precise hours and minutes. Waking up on time wasn't about hitting an exact moment. It was about reading the world around you and responding to it. And what people created in that environment, the habits, the hired helpers, the biological hacks, reveals something remarkable about human ingenuity. These weren't primitive workarounds. They were sophisticated systems fine-tuned over centuries that worked in harmony with the human body rather than against it. This is the forgotten history of waking up, and it is far stranger and far more fascinating than you ever imagined. Here is the fundamental problem that every person before the industrial age faced. Time was critical, but time was invisible. A Roman soldier needed to be at his post before dawn. A medieval baker had to have bread ready when the market opened. A monk was required, by sacred obligation, to rise for prayer at 2 o'clock in the morning in complete darkness, in a stone monastery with no clocks on the wall. Missing these moments wasn't just inconvenient. It could mean punishment, poverty, or in the case of that Roman soldier, death. And the cruel irony? Darkness was absolute. There were no street lights, no glowing phone screens, no ambient light pollution bleeding through the curtains. When night fell in a pre-industrial village, it fell completely. The world became a black, disorienting void. So how do you know what time it is when you cannot see? How do you guarantee you'll wake up when your body is surrendering to deep, natural sleep? This wasn't a minor inconvenience to work around. This was a genuine civilization-wide crisis that required real solutions. And the stakes kept rising. As towns grew into cities and cities grew into industrial engines, the pressure to be somewhere specific at a specific time became increasingly intense. Workers pouring into the factories of Manchester and London in the early 1800s faced docking of wages or immediate dismissal if they arrived late. The human body was suddenly expected to perform with the precision of the very machines it was being hired to operate. And the old ways were being pushed to their absolute limit. So what did people actually do? The oldest and most widespread method was simply trusting the body itself. Humans are equipped with a powerful internal clock, the circadian rhythm, that responds to light, temperature, and routine. For thousands of years, most people rose naturally with the sun because their entire environment was calibrated to it. No artificial light disrupted their melatonin. No late-night screens confused their biology. They went dark when the world went dark, and they rose when light returned. But nature alone wasn't always enough, and history records some genuinely creative solutions. In ancient Rome and medieval Europe, candle clocks were used to mark the passing of night hours. Candles were crafted to a precise length, calibrated to burn for a specific number of hours. Sometimes a nail was embedded near the base. When the flame reached it, the nail would drop with a sharp metallic clang into a metal dish below, a crude but functional alarm echoing through a silent stone room. Monks in monasteries developed an entire role around the problem. One brother, called the Circator, was tasked with staying awake through the darkest hours, moving silently through dormitory corridors, gently waking his sleeping brothers in time for the canonical hours of prayer. Night after night, year after year, an entire human life dedicated to being someone else's alarm clock. And then there was segmented sleep, perhaps the most astonishing discovery of all. Historical records, diaries, and medical texts from medieval Europe consistently describe people sleeping in two distinct phases. They would sleep from roughly 8 or 9 in the evening until midnight, wake naturally, for 1 to 2 hours of quiet activity, prayer, conversation, sometimes intimacy, and then return to sleep until dawn. This wasn't insomnia. This was the natural human sleep pattern before artificial light erased it entirely. But the most dramatic chapter in this story belongs to a figure so strange, so uniquely human, that history almost forgot them entirely. Meet the knocker-upper. As industrial Britain exploded with factories, mills, and shift work, in the late 18th and early 19th centuries, a new profession was born from pure necessity. Men and women, yes, women too, would walk the pre-dawn streets of London, Manchester, and Birmingham, armed with long bamboo poles, short-range pea shooters, or bundles of wire, and they would physically wake up sleeping workers, one window at a time. Mary Smith of Limehouse, East London, became one of the most famous. She would walk her route every single morning, blowing dried peas through a tin tube at upper floor windows, tapping and rattling until she heard movement from inside. Her fee, a few pennies a week. Her reliability, absolute. The workers whose livelihoods depended on her showing up could not afford for her to oversleep. But this raises the question that contemporaries actually asked out loud. Who woke up the knocker-upper? The answer, beautifully, is that they woke each other up, or they simply never went to sleep at all. Some trained themselves through years of disciplined routine to wake at the same hour every morning, through sheer biological habit. Their bodies became the clock. This was the peak of human ingenuity, applied to the problem of time. No technology, no electricity, just community, routine, and an almost defiant refusal to let the darkness win. The mechanical alarm clock arrived in the mid-1800s and changed everything. Almost overnight, the knocker-uppers faded away, the candle clocks were forgotten, and segmented sleep was quietly erased from human experience as gas lamps and then electric lights rewired our biology entirely. But here is the twist nobody talks about. Modern sleep researchers, including historian Roger Ekirch, have now confirmed what those medieval diaries were describing all along. Segmented sleep, two distinct sleep phases separated by a wakeful period, appears to be the natural human sleep pattern. What we experience today, this relentless pressure to consolidate 8 hours into one unbroken block, may actually be a historical anomaly, a side effect of industrialization, not a biological truth. The anxiety millions of people feel about waking up in the night, convinced something is wrong with them? It might be their ancient biology simply trying to do what it was always designed to do. The people who drank water before bed, who trusted burning candles, who knocked on strangers' windows in the freezing dark, they weren't primitive. They were working with their bodies in a way we have almost entirely forgotten. The alarm clock didn't just change when we wake up. It changed who we are when we sleep. And that leaves us with a question I genuinely want you to think about. Do you ever wake up naturally, in the middle of the night, completely alert, for no obvious reason, and then fall back asleep an hour or two later? Because if you do, you might not have a sleep problem. You might just have a medieval sleep schedule. Drop your answer in the comments below. I'm seriously curious how many of you experience this without realizing what it actually is. If this video made you see something ordinary in a completely new way, hit that like button. It genuinely helps this channel reach more people who love history told this way. Subscribe if you haven't already, because next time we're going to explore another everyday thing with a hidden, world-changing history that nobody ever taught you in school. The past is stranger than fiction, and we're just getting started.